War has torn apart galaxies, but love can transcend even stars. In a universe where humanity fights for survival against overwhelming odds, one soldier will discover that not all enemies are meant to be fought. When Captain Elias Drake encounters Lyra, an enigmatic alien diplomat seeking peace, their connection sparks hope and danger. As alliances crumble and secrets unravel, they must choose between duty and desire. Can love survive in the chaos of war? Subscribe now to uncover this epic tale of courage, sacrifice, and forbidden romance. The stars burned coldly above Outpost Delta 9, their light indifferent to the suffering below. Captain Elias Drake tightened his grip on the plasma rifle slung across his chest as he surveyed the wreckage of what had once been a thriving colony. The air was thick with ash and despair, remnants of the latest attack by the Krylos, a species as ruthless as they were mysterious. His visor displayed casualty reports scrolling endlessly, each name another weight on his already burdened conscience. He knew the war would never end without drastic measures, but desperation had begun to cloud judgment among both sides. It was during this bleak moment that she appeared, Lyra, emissary of the Krylos High Council. Her arrival was unannounced, her presence unexpected. She stood amidst the ruins, her luminous skin casting an ethereal glow against the darkness. For a brief second, Elias forgot how to breathe. Her voice cut through the silence like a melody from another world. "I come in peace," she said, her words translated flawlessly by the neural implant embedded in his skull. Yet skepticism lingered in every fiber of his being. How could someone so beautiful emerge from a race responsible for such destruction? Still, orders were clear. Escort her to Command Central at all costs. As they walked side by side, Elias couldn't help but notice the way her gaze lingered on the devastation around them. Not with pride or malice, but sorrow. This wasn't the face of an enemy. It was the face of someone who carried the weight of her people's sins. And perhaps, just perhaps, someone willing to change the course of history. Command Central buzzed with tension as Elias led Lyra through its fortified corridors. Soldiers stared openly, some with disdain, others with curiosity. No one had ever seen a Krylos up close before, let alone one dressed in ceremonial robes instead of battle armor. Lyra moved gracefully despite the hostile environment, her poise unwavering. She seemed almost serene, as if she belonged here among humans rather than negotiating treaties behind enemy lines. General Hargrove awaited them in the war room, his expression grim beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. "Explain yourself," he barked, addressing Lyra without preamble. "Why are you here?" She met his glare calmly, her large, almond-shaped eyes shimmering faintly. "Because your war is senseless," she replied. "My people have suffered enough, as have yours. I propose a ceasefire, a chance to rebuild rather than destroy." Hargrove scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "And why should we trust you? Your kind has shown nothing but contempt for us since day one." Before Lyra could respond, Elias stepped forward. "Sir, if I may—" He hesitated, aware of the risk he was taking. "Perhaps we owe it to ourselves to hear her out. What do we have to lose?" The general's eyes narrowed, but after a long pause, he nodded curtly. "Very well. But make no mistake, Captain. This is your responsibility now." As they left the war room, Elias felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Trusting Lyra might cost him everything, yet something deep within told him she was genuine. Little did he know, their fates were about to become irrevocably intertwined. Over the next few days, Elias found himself spending more time with Lyra than anticipated. Their conversations ranged from trivialities about food preferences to profound discussions about morality and survival. He learned that Krylos society valued harmony above all else, a stark contrast to humanity's relentless pursuit of dominance. Despite their differences, they shared common ground in their mutual exhaustion with conflict. One evening, as they sat together in a secluded corner of the outpost, Lyra turned to him with an intensity that caught him off guard. "Elias?" she began softly. "Do you believe in destiny?" He chuckled nervously, unsure how to answer. "Destiny isn't something soldiers think about much. We focus on surviving today, not tomorrow." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Perhaps that is why your species struggles so greatly. Without vision, there can be no true progress." Her words lingered in his mind long after their conversation ended. Was she right? Had humanity's short-sightedness led them down this path of endless warfare? Or was she simply trying to manipulate him? Either way, her insight unsettled him and intrigued him. News of Lyra's presence spread quickly throughout the outpost, sparking heated debates among the crew. Some viewed her as a potential ally, while others saw her as a threat masquerading as diplomacy. Tensions reached a boiling point when Sergeant Vega confronted Elias outside the mess hall. "You're getting too cozy with our guest," Vega spat, jabbing a finger toward the door where Lyra had just disappeared. "What happens when she betrays us? Will you still defend her then?" Elias clenched his fists, fighting the urge to retaliate. "She hasn't given me any reason to doubt her intentions. If anything, she's shown more humanity than most of us combined." Vega sneered. "Don't forget who the real enemy is, Captain. Those glowing eyes might dazzle you, but they won't bring back the dead." Though angered by Vega's accusations, Elias couldn't deny the kernel of truth buried within them. Loyalty to his comrades clashed with growing affection for Lyra, leaving him torn between two worlds. That night, unable to sleep, he wandered to the observation deck overlooking the barren landscape. To his surprise, Lyra was already there, gazing silently at the stars. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" she murmured, sensing his approach. "Yes," he agreed, joining her at the railing. "But beauty often hides danger." She glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "As does trust." Their eyes locked, and for the first time, Elias allowed himself to consider the possibility of something greater than duty or obligation. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the tide began to shift. Lyra's proposals gained traction among key members of Command Central, particularly those weary of bloodshed. Negotiations progressed cautiously, though skepticism remained rampant. Meanwhile, Elias and Lyra grew closer, their bond strengthening with each passing day. They shared stories of their respective homeworlds, laughed over cultural misunderstandings, and even danced awkwardly to old Earth music streaming through the outpost speakers. Yet shadows loomed on the horizon. Reports surfaced of rogue factions within the Krylos ranks determined to sabotage peace talks. Rumors swirled of assassins dispatched to eliminate Lyra before she could broker a treaty. Despite these threats, she refused to abandon her mission. "I cannot allow fear to dictate my actions," she declared one night as they prepared for bed. "If I falter now, everything I've worked for will be lost." Elias admired her resolve but feared for her safety. "Let me protect you," he insisted. "You don't have to face this alone." For a fleeting moment, vulnerability flickered across her face. Then, composing herself, she placed a hand gently on his arm. "Thank you, Elias. But remember, true strength lies not in shielding oneself, but in standing firm despite the storms." Her words resonated deeply, planting seeds of determination within him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he vowed to stand by her side. The first attempt on Lyra's life occurred during a routine supply run. Shots rang out as they exited the transport shuttle, forcing Elias to shove her behind cover. Chaos erupted as security forces scrambled to neutralize the threat. When the dust settled, 3 attackers lay dead, their motives unclear. Lyra emerged shaken but unharmed, her composure masking the terror she must have felt. "This changes nothing," she stated firmly, brushing debris from her robes. "We must continue as planned." Elias, however, couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. That night, he confided in General Hargrove, urging increased protection for Lyra. "If anything happens to her, we lose our best chance at ending this war," he argued. Hargrove sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. "I understand your concerns, Captain, but resources are stretched thin as it is. We can't afford to divert manpower solely for her sake." Frustrated yet undeterred, Elias took matters into his own hands. With help from trusted allies, he devised a covert plan to safeguard Lyra without drawing attention. Though risky, it offered a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak situation. As negotiations entered their final stages, emotions ran high. Breakthroughs alternated with setbacks, testing everyone's patience. Through it all, Elias remained steadfast, supporting Lyra whenever doubts threatened to overwhelm her. Their partnership evolved into something neither could have predicted, something deeper, stronger, and infinitely more dangerous. One evening, as they reviewed documents in private quarters, Lyra paused suddenly, her gaze fixed intently on him. "Elias," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "what happens after the treaty is signed? What becomes of us?" Caught off guard, Elias struggled to articulate his thoughts. I don't know. All I do know is that I care about you. More than I ever thought possible." Tears welled in her eyes as she reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek. "Then promise me one thing, that whatever comes next, we'll face it together." In that moment, surrounded by uncertainty, Elias made a silent vow. Whatever sacrifices lay ahead, he would endure them. For her, for peace, and for the future they dared to dream of. The signing ceremony took place aboard a neutral space station orbiting a distant moon. Representatives from both sides gathered in a grand hall adorned with symbols of unity. Cameras captured every movement, broadcasting live feeds to billions across the galaxy. Amidst the pomp and circumstance, Elias stood watchful, his heart pounding with anticipation. When Lyra stepped onto the podium, her presence commanded respect. She spoke eloquently, her words weaving a tapestry of hope and reconciliation. Applause erupted as pens touched paper, sealing the historic agreement. Cheers echoed through the hall, celebrating the dawn of a new era. But joy proved fleeting. Moments later, alarms blared, signaling an incoming attack. Rogue vessels breached the station's defenses, unleashing chaos upon the celebratory gathering. Panic ensued as explosions rocked the structure, sending debris flying in all directions. Elias grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her towards safety. "We need to get you out of here," he shouted over the din. "No," she protested, resisting his pull. "I won't leave until everyone is secure." Her stubbornness infuriated him, but also filled him with pride. Together, they navigated the pandemonium, ensuring evacuations proceeded smoothly. Only when the last civilian departed did they retreat to an escape pod, narrowly avoiding capture. Safe aboard a rescue vessel, Elias and Lyra processed the aftermath of the failed assassination attempt. Casualties were minimal thanks to swift action, but trust between factions wavered precariously. Conspiracy theories abounded, accusing various parties of orchestrating the attack. Amidst the turmoil, Elias realized the importance of transparency. "We need to address this publicly," he urged Lyra. "People deserve answers." She nodded, understanding the necessity. "But we must tread carefully. Misinformation could reignite hostilities." Working tirelessly, they crafted a joint statement condemning the violence and reaffirming commitment to peace. Broadcasts reached every corner of inhabited space, rallying support for continued cooperation. Slowly, faith began to restore. Behind closed doors, however, personal demons resurfaced. Nightmares plagued Elias, visions of Lyra injured, or worse, haunting his sleep. Each morning, he woke drenched in sweat, clinging to her presence as reassurance. Though grateful for his concern, Lyra worried about his mental health. "You carry too much guilt," she observed gently one night. "It isn't healthy. I can't lose you," he admitted hoarsely. Her embrace provided solace, reminding him that healing required time and trust. Months passed, and stability gradually returned. Reconstruction efforts flourished, fueled by collaborative initiatives between humans and Krylos. Cities rose from ashes, bridges spanned divides, and friendships formed where animosity once reigned. Yet challenges persisted, particularly regarding integration. Cultural clashes occasionally erupted, requiring mediation and compromise. Throughout it all, Elias and Lyra remained inseparable, their relationship evolving naturally despite societal scrutiny. Critics questioned the wisdom of interspecies romance, citing biological and ethical concerns. Supporters hailed them as pioneers of a new paradigm, proof that love transcended boundaries. Privately, they faced their own hurdles. Communication barriers occasionally caused misunderstandings, while differing perspectives tested their patience. Still, they persevered, learning from each other daily. One breakthrough came when Elias introduced Lyra to Earth literature, sparking lively debates about philosophy and art. Another occurred when she taught him traditional Krylos dance, resulting in hilariously clumsy attempts that brought laughter instead of frustration. These small victories strengthened their bond, proving that unity stemmed not from perfection but perseverance. Amidst rebuilding efforts, whispers of rebellion surfaced. Dissidents on both sides opposed reconciliation, viewing it as weakness. Sabotage incidents multiplied, targeting infrastructure and diplomatic missions alike. Determined to quell dissent, Elias and Lyra embarked on a goodwill tour, visiting affected regions to promote solidarity. Their journey took them to remote colonies and war-torn planets, exposing them to untold hardships endured by ordinary citizens. Stories of loss and resilience resonated deeply, reinforcing their resolve. Along the way, they encountered individuals inspired by their example. Young activists advocating peaceful coexistence, elderly survivors sharing tales of past conflicts. One encounter stood out vividly. On a desert moon ravaged by resource scarcity, a young girl approached Lyra shyly, clutching a handmade flower. "Thank you for helping us," she murmured before darting away. Tears welled in Lyra's eyes as she clutched the fragile gift, overwhelmed by its significance. "These moments remind me why we fight," she confessed to Elias later. "Not for power or glory, but for moments like this." Her conviction bolstered his own, fueling their crusade for lasting change. Back at Command Central, preparations commenced for a summit aimed at solidifying alliances. World leaders converged, eager to celebrate milestones achieved thus far. Security measures intensified, reflecting heightened vigilance against potential threats. During a preparatory meeting, General Hargrove addressed Elias privately. "Captain, I want you to lead protective detail for Ambassador Lyra during the event." Surprised by the request, Elias hesitated. "Sir, wouldn't someone more experienced?" "No," Hargrove interrupted. "You've earned this responsibility. Besides, no one knows her better than you." Flattered yet apprehensive, Elias accepted the assignment. True to form, Lyra greeted the news with quiet confidence. "Together again," she remarked lightly, squeezing his hand reassuringly. Summit proceedings unfolded smoothly initially, speeches punctuated by applause and optimistic forecasts. However, midway through the gala dinner, disaster struck. An explosion rocked the venue, sending guests fleeing in terror. Amidst the confusion, Elias shielded Lyra with his body, scanning frantically for assailants. "Stay close," he ordered, guiding her toward emergency exits. Bullets whizzed past, narrowly missing their marks. Chaos reigned supreme until reinforcements arrived, neutralizing remaining threats. Once safe, Elias collapsed against a wall, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "That was too close," he muttered shakily. Lyra knelt beside him, her touch steadying his nerves. "But we survived." Again. Her calm demeanor grounded him, offering perspective amid turmoil. Investigations revealed the perpetrators belonged to extremist cells bent on derailing progress. Public outcry demanded justice, prompting swift arrests and trials. While relieved, Elias recognized underlying tensions remained unresolved. Addressing root causes required more than punitive measures. It necessitated education, empathy, and sustained dialogue. Inspired by recent events, he proposed establishing a cultural exchange program, fostering mutual understanding between humans and Krylos. Lyra enthusiastically endorsed the idea, volunteering to spearhead implementation. Initial feedback proved overwhelmingly positive, participants reporting transformative experiences. Encouraged by success, Elias suggested expanding initiatives globally. Imagine entire generations growing up side by side, he envisioned aloud. Conflict would become obsolete. Lyra smiled wistfully, envisioning similar possibilities. Such dreams require patience and persistence. But yes, imagine indeed. Their aspirations ignited passions worldwide, inspiring grassroots movements dedicated to peacebuilding. Skeptics dwindled, replaced by advocates championing inclusivity. Progress accelerated exponentially, heralding unprecedented cooperation. Years passed and legacies endured. Historical records chronicled Elias and Lyra's contributions, immortalizing their names alongside pioneers of intergalactic harmony. Monuments commemorated milestones achieved under their leadership, symbols of unity adorning public spaces. Children learned about their sacrifices in schools, aspiring to emulate their courage and compassion. Personally, their lives intertwined seamlessly, blending traditions and customs into a unique tapestry. Celebrations merged human holidays with Krylos rituals, creating hybrid festivities cherished universally. Domestic routines reflected shared values, balancing independence with interdependence. Occasionally, nostalgia surfaced, memories of early struggles revisiting unbidden. During quiet evenings, Elias recounted tales of battles fought and lessons learned, marveling at transformations witnessed. Lyra listened attentively, adding anecdotes of her own, painting portraits of resilience and redemption. Through it all, gratitude defined their existence. For every challenge overcome, triumph celebrated, and dream realized, they expressed heartfelt appreciation. Life hadn't always been easy, but together, they forged paths formerly unimaginable. Decades later, standing atop a hill overlooking a thriving metropolis, Elias reflected on their journey. Beside him, Lyra leaned contentedly against his shoulder, her presence anchoring him firmly in the present. Below, diverse crowds mingled freely, laughter echoing harmoniously. Stars twinkled overhead, witnesses to countless stories unfolding nightly. Turning to her, Elias smiled softly. "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if we hadn't met?" She tilted her head thoughtfully. "Perhaps wars would rage indefinitely, hatred consuming hearts irreparably. Or maybe fate would intervene differently, leading us elsewhere eventually." Pausing, she added earnestly, "But I prefer this reality, imperfect yet perfect because we chose it together." Emotions surged within him, overflowing into tears. Pulling her close, he whispered, "Me too, Lyra, me too." Their embrace encapsulated lifetimes of struggle and achievement, embodying hope eternal. Above, constellations shimmered brightly, illuminating roads traveled and journeys yet to embark upon. Love conquered all, even galaxies apart. Subscribe now to experience more thrilling adventures spanning universes unknown.